Hey Siri, what are the top questions menopause women are asking about fitness? Hi, I'm Cam, holistic health coach, mom to 2 humans and 4 pets.
Hi, I'm Amelia, laboratory scientist by day and food scientist by night.
Welcome to our show.
Join us as we share our holistic approach to life after 50.
You can expect real life stories with a dash of humor and a ton of truth.
If it happens in midlife, we're going to talk about it. So hit that subscribe button and follow along.
We're the midlife mamas.
Hey, those are great. I can't wait to understand that, Cam. Greetings, everyone. We are talking about questions around fitness that menopausal women ask, and we're going to tackle the first 5 questions today, and stay tuned because we'll give you the answers to the second 5 questions next week.
Yeah, so we're starting with part 1 here, and these are 5 questions people have asking Siri about menopause fitness. So maybe you have these questions. Chances are you do.
Yeah, I'm thinking they do. So let's just jump in, Cam. The number one that we chose. This isn't to say this is the number one asked question. We just like this one, so we're starting with: is it safe to start strength training at my age? I think that's a great question.
Yeah. And did you ask that? And I'm curious when you started. When did you start strength training?
Oh, honestly, it's probably been since menopause, honestly. I mean, I dabbled in it when I was in my endurance exercise phase because I knew cognitively that it was a great thing, but I felt like I didn't have time. But yeah, I probably didn't start till I was about 52.
Yeah, I was 41 and mine was not for like physical reasons. It was for emotional reasons. It was a way to get strong emotionally during separation, divorce, all that stuff. So interesting. So it is not too late. Here we are, 2 midlife women. You were post-menopause. I was pre-menopause, but it's not too late to start.
Yeah. And I would say it's never really too late. So let's just unpack a little bit. We're telling you the short answer is it safe to start strength training in menopause? Yes, it is. But let's talk about how that might be safe.
Yeah. So we always suggest starting small. Like I noticed when I was coaching in the gym, women would come in with these lofty goals and they want to do all the things like immediately. And that's just not how life works. And so starting small, making small steps, small goals for yourself and showing up consistently is really where you need to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the consistency and starting small message. And, honestly, Cam, when I first started, I didn't even use actual weights. I'd use like water bottles or cans of food because, some of that can weigh 1 or 2 pounds. So it was literally that small that I started in, but it is starting.
It absolutely. And I love using bands. Resistant bands is another great way to start because you can decide like how you're gripping it, where you're gripping it, how are you anchoring it with your foot or your hand. You can control how much effort is needed to move the band. So I like resistant bands for starting too.
That's a great idea. I use body weight exercises. You can do things like lunges or squats or even wall push-ups that simply uses your body weight, and you don't even need any extra equipment.
I totally agree with that. There are days when I get in work mode and I feel like I'm sitting too long. And I have this coffee table that's like the perfect height to knock out some push-ups. And so I have a timer on my phone and literally I'll just do push-ups for 20 seconds and then I'll rest until I can go again. And I'll do like 8 rounds and I'll just feel so much better getting that blood pumping. And, am I getting stronger? Maybe not necessarily in that particular moment, but it's just like one of the goofy things I do.
No, I love it. And you're making it fun and you're incorporating it into a routine, which is also really important and great when we're talking about this. So I think that there's just lots of ways that we can, answer the question of starting strength training in midlife is a resounding yes, not just a yeah, we think so, but there's plenty of scientific evidence to back this up. We know that strength training prevents bone loss and obviously muscle retraction or loss. So actually, Cam, I just can't think of a single reason not to start.
Yeah. And you may not love it, but just check the box because we know strength training improves your health. We know that is a fact, period, end of sentence. And we also know that muscle loss began around 30 and accelerates in midlife. And now is the time. So you may not be in love with it, but just know you're loving yourself extra and you're improving your health. So get over it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you, but I have to say, after curling my little cans of beans or water bottles, I'm at much higher weight now, and
Mhm.
it makes me feel very powerful. Like
Mm,
with minor assistance, I mean, I can do pull-ups. Just that's probably one of my favorite empowering exercises, a pull-up. And
totally.
so, these are things that you do learn to love. I promise. It doesn't always feel like, oh my gosh, is this going to be this hard forever?
Yeah, and I guess just check the box at the beginning and then
Yep.
you fall in love with it. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think that's a valid strategy, but it
Uh,
does bring up it kind of is a great lead into our next question,
mhm.
which is what exercises are best for preventing bone loss and osteoporosis? And before we answer, I want to throw out how important this is because I can't tell you how many women I know in their 70s and 80s who haven't sustained a substantial fall, but a small fall and broken a hip. And it's like
I
we
know.
need to prevent this bone loss because if we can be strong and prevent bone loss, these minor trips over edges of rugs will not cause us these, hospitalizations that we've seen in our great aunts and so forth.
Yeah, and it feels like, and maybe you can share your experience when you have surgery or when this happens, that's when the health really starts to
Yep.
decline and they don't always bounce back. Is that what you've noticed?
Absolutely. And I'll give you a personal story. This isn't about bone loss per se, but in 2012, I suffered a very bad injury. I basically shattered the radial head, which is one of the small bones of the arm that as it connects in the elbow joint. And I had to have surgery to get it replaced or to fix it, not replace it, but to kind of put it back together. And granted, I wasn't, that was, many years ago and I was younger, but if I hadn't already started a fitness routine, I think my recovery would have been substantially longer. And I was in good enough shape that I returned to partial work 8 days after surgery.
Oh,
Now
wow.
yeah, it was amazing. And so I did all of the things. That arm is always going to be a little bit less strong. But the point is I unknowingly safeguarded against weeks of lost wages and work and so forth. And, as I already said, I've known so many women who have fallen and broken a hip. And and a lot of times they don't even realize how brittle their bones are until they've fallen and that break has occurred.
Right. You want to just bounce. You just literally want to bounce back. Literally.
Yep.
Yeah. Get yourself off the floor or wherever you fell and then be strong enough to get your body weight back up and then recover quickly. That's the goal.
Right, exactly. And, exercises specifically for bone loss and osteoporosis, we know strength training. Is there any specific thing you can think of that we should describe here?
Yeah. So when we do strength training, our muscles are pulling on our bones. And so that's how that works. If you're thinking about it scientifically, that was not a scientific definition, but the more your muscles pull on your bones, then they're resisting, they're getting stronger. So that's one thing. But then there's like a ton of like impact exercises and we're not talking about step aerobics or any of that
I
other
love
stuff. Did you see Jane Fonda in your mind when I said that?
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Oh, my mom used to wear those leotards. Anyway, they did jazzercise actually, but anything like impact such as walking, jogging, rebounding's amazing. Tennis, pickleball, jump rope, anytime where you're like doing little hops,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do 20-inch box jumps like I used to do in my past. Like you don't have to do extreme like that. So there you go.
Let's go back to rebounding. Is that kind of like skipping? Tell me what that is.
A rebounder is like one of those little mini trampolines. But
Oh, cool.
let's add skipping to this list because skipping is also really fun. You're going to smile and you may notice that your coordination's not where it used to be, but let's add skipping. That's really fun. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to prescribe when I was training triathletes things, we called them just running drills. And these were skipping. We also did what we called butt kicks, where you just basically pull your knees up to your glute, or high knees, where you just kind of like a marching motion. And you can do those sorts of things, like almost like I don't want to say a cardio exercise, but rapidly, or even just as a walking, like almost like marching. So
Hmm.
any of these things, and it's doing exactly that. I'm sure you can envision your quad and your hamstring muscle pulling on the bone as your knees are raised up high and you're contracting your hip flexors, and just wonderful. We don't think about, if you haven't done any skipping or anything like this in a while, you might be surprised at A, how much fun it is, and B, how challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that you're bouncing your body off the earth,
Exactly.
but you don't have to like leave the ground very far. So,
Right.
I mean, but high knee skips are really fun. Like I just remember the times we would use them in the gym for as part of a warm up, and it's just fun. Like everyone's laughing and having fun. So give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. So, question 3 is, how can I stay motivated and consistent with my fitness routine?
uh,
Cam, this is probably the number one questions my friends ask.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Again, starting small, I would start small. If you start with these lofty goals, think about to your New Year's resolutions. Like
Mhm.
if you were shooting for the moon, and yeah, it's just start small. Set
Yeah.
yourself up for success.
I totally agree. Set yourself up for success is a great piece of advice, and it's a positive thing. One of the things I tell people is to praise or celebrate your progress. That doesn't mean with an ice cream sundae or, like a whole plate of loaded nachos. But, and it doesn't necessarily mean in going buying a designer handbag either. There's ways to celebrate your progress. It may be, it doesn't have to involve any money at all, but maybe it's to buy a jog bra, or even a new pair of socks, something simple. Maybe you treat
Mhm.
yourself to a pedicure, or maybe you go out with friends and you drink. What I do is I get seltzer water with lime sometimes. So there's ways, and you kind of have to unpack your own motivation and what you think. How can I celebrate this that doesn't sabotage this progress, but will actually spur me on to do more?
Yeah, when I first started doing CrossFit at age 41, I would eat ice cream afterwards because I'm like, oh, I exercise. So
Yeah.
it made like take some rewiring of your brain. Did you ever do anything
Oh,
crazy
yeah,
like
yeah,
that? Or were
yeah,
you
absolutely.
okay?
When I
Okay.
trained for my first marathon, I got a milkshake. I went and bought a milkshake every time,
Uh-huh.
or because a lot of times immediately after those long runs, I wanted salt, like large French fries. But yeah,
Yeah.
food was my go-to reward system,
Yep.
100%.
Well, I feel like we're hardwired. And when I was a classroom teacher, it would always annoy me when the teachers would hand out candy for, and this is before my fitness stuff,
Mhm.
right? They would hand out candy for grades. And I'm like, what's the message here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So I think we're hardwired that food is often a reward. And I like your suggestions, Amelia. Like, think outside the box. How else can you like love and appreciate yourself? And it doesn't have to be food.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next way to remain consistent and motivated, is what we said before, is stay consistent, and doing something fun, because both of those things are answers to multiple of these questions. And I think that just speaks to the validity and importance of those two things, is consistency and doing something that you enjoy.
Yeah. So how I do it, and I'm curious on I look at my week and I'm like, okay, where is strength training going? Because that has to be planned
Right.
first. That's a non negotiable. And then, like last week, I went on a hike with a friend. So that was scheduled and we picked a time and a location. But fill in, like, look at your schedule and fill it in so you can be consistent. And I am a calendar person. I use the one on my phone. And if it's in my calendar and it's on my phone, it's going to happen. What about you? Like, how do you plan your fitness?
Basically the same way. I don't know. Mine is more holistic in that I think I don't automatically plug the strength in and then fill everything around it. I got to be honest with you, Cam. I'm more plan around my work schedule. I know
Mhm.
what days I have to be in my office. I know what days that I have to leave home at 7:30 to be at work, or even 7 a.m. sometimes. So it's more about the work schedule. So for people that have to drive to an office, that may be a consideration. But make sure, and here's the other tip on that, Cam. You said you use the calendar on your phone. Use
Mhm.
your work calendar. So
Mhm.
if you have a work calendar and it fills up like mine does with meetings and, all this, that, and the other, And, I would say I actually add things on both calendars if I have to, but I actually add my workouts on my work calendar so that when I open up Outlook in my work day, I see it there. Like, oh, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I'm doing this or whatever. And on the days I work from home, sometimes those workouts end up being a lunchtime workout. Like I've, been working, and it's a great way to break up my day.
I love that. And that's exactly what I'm saying. You like look at things that are scheduled, which would be work or other appointments or whatever. And then you like strategically say, okay, this is when I'm doing this. For me, most weeks, it's Monday, Thursday is my strength training days. And it's a rhythm, and I can be consistent on that. So yeah, you have to find a way that works. I love blocking the calendar. Yes, my personal calendar is synced to my work calendar. So I love that idea. So yeah, it's a date with yourself, and you're important. So, do it.
Absolutely. And I would say if you are not feeling motivated, ask yourself why. We always have some sort of few sentences on the podcast about checking in with yourself. And if you're feeling unmotivated, ask yourself, is it that you don't want to do this, or are you actually tired, stressed, overwhelmed, hungry, you didn't sleep well or whatever? So I think those are very different. When we talk about motivation, I was talking, I think, to one of my children actually recently, and we went through this exercise together. And her comment was, I don't feel motivated to work out. But I started asking more questions about her general state of health in that moment in time to discover, is there a reason that maybe you should walk instead of run, or do a less strenuous workout, or do some yoga or meditation that was valid. Now, I'm not saying to just, every time you don't feel motivated, decided, well, I must just be hungry or sleepy. But I think there's some validity to checking in with yourself and saying, why am I unmotivated at this moment? And what type of movement will best serve me at the moment?
I love that. And you're, two over exercisers right here on the microphone.
Yeah, totally.
So how many times push through, don't never miss a Monday. You can rest when you die. All this nonsense.
Yeah.
What is that? Yeah. We don't prescribe to that information. And so I agree with you. The warning, like I love the idea, instead of going for a run, if you're stressed out, tired, whatever, dehydrated, go for a walk instead. You're supporting yourself better. The problem I see is when people hook too many of those days together, and then you're like, oh my gosh, a month has gone by and I haven't picked up a weight. And so it's kind of like, you have to be super honest with yourself. If you are not sleeping, then no, you should not be doing intense exercise. You should be doing walking or getting out in nature, something else to support your system. It's the problem when you string a whole bunch of days together and then you're like, what happened?
Yeah. And again, dig deeper. Why have I not done it? Is it truly like I hate it and I don't want to do it? Is there something else going on? Are you legitimately fatigued all the time? Do you need to have your iron checked? Do you need to have your thyroid checked? So sometimes these things can indicate deeper problems and you need to dig deeper. But if you're honest with yourself, you'll be able to answer the question, could this be a medical or metabolic issue I need to investigate? Or do I just need to get my lazy butt off the couch?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I trust yourself to let the answer bubble up, if you will, because the answer is within you and it's not outside of you. And so just trust yourself that whatever comes up for you, when you ask yourself honest, tough questions, that's the answer for you. Trust yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of us have a reason why we work out and we want to maintain some sort of fitness routine. And it's worth it to ask what your why is, right? To know what is your base motivation.
Yeah. And it could be like a physical body composition thing, but it also could be like your grandkids or getting off the ground or going hiking, or I love carrying in all the groceries at once. That's one of my goals. Like I want to do that forever. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's so, I don't want to say simple, but it's so functional. And I think that's an important piece of this too, is that we want to remain active so that we can remain functional and have longevity.
Well, here's the thing. It is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. So
right.
My business coach says that often. It's very simple. Like what we're suggesting is very simple. but it's tough to do. And we're not saying it's not easy. We're saying it might be hard, but it's simple.
Good point, and really, really good distinction. So the fourth question, Cam, is a little harder for me. You're the expert here, but I think it's important to discuss. Can I still make significant fitness progress despite hormonal changes?
And the answer is yes. And part of that includes not giving up and being curious about your body. And we've kind of alluded to it in the previous question. Like if you're running on cortisol and stress, you can't build muscles because the cortisol, chronic stress doesn't allow you. It breaks your muscles. It doesn't build your muscles. So getting your life in check is definitely part of the equation. I find there's two hormonal things that we definitely can control. One is our cortisol and our stress. Figure it out. Do what you need to do so you're not running on cortisol. Multitasking is a lie. We've said that so many times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the second is your blood sugar. Like what are you eating? How are you eating it? When are you eating it? So those are the two hormonal things that really matter when it comes to fitness. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I love that you brought it up because I think sometimes what's a demotivator is we feel like we're out of control, and those two things that you mentioned we are in control of. So, Holly Bertone used a term in our episode with her about gratitude that I absolutely adore and think about often. It's radical responsibility. So if you just take those two things, your stress level, i.e. cortisol response, and what you put in your mouth, i.e. insulin response, if you take radical responsibility for just those two things, it will make a huge difference in your well-being. And I dare say it'll make a difference in how you respond to your fitness routine and just how much joy you can bring to your life.
Totally agree with you. And the thing is, it's really tempting when things go crazy in menopause, midlife, and you're like, well, I'll just do what I always did. I'll just go back. I know what to do. I'm going to do a lot of cardio and I'm going to eat like a bird and it'll work. And it doesn't work. And then you're like, what? And you're frustrated. And it is hormonally, and the hormones impact everything. In fact, I was talking in my group the other day, like calories in, calories out is part of the formula. Okay. That is part of the formula. You ask some guy, fitness trainer on Instagram, he would say that's the only thing that matters. If you are gaining weight in midlife, you're eating too much. That would be his answer to you. Well, one, he's not a woman, and two, he's not in menopause. And so these hormones definitely play a factor. You can be under eating. It happens all the time. I see it all the time. You can be under eating and gain weight. And you're like, how in the world is this happening? And maybe your body's under too much stress because you're under eating and you're over exercising, or maybe your blood sugar is out of whack. And maybe that's the answer. But those things can be fixed by you.
Right. And I love that. I love that you said they can be fixed by you. So you are in control of some of these things. I love it.
Yeah. Don't you feel, I know I did. I gave so much authority away to outside sources, my health, my uterus, I gave it away. I got it cut out, without like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right to me. What other options are there? And so I think we're part of our story of helping women in menopause is like, you have choices, ladies. You have decisions that you can make and improve your health.
And question yourself, question your motives, question like what you hold as truth, because there may be some, if not subliminal messaging, certainly some truths that you believe from when you were 13. And some of this eat like a bird and over exercise may have come about in the 80s, depending on how old you are. Basically my whole teenage years were the 80s. And so, I've had to do it with more than just food and exercise. I've done it with, my walk of faith and how I feel about relationships, these foundational moments that we don't realize we've just really embodied and taken a hold of that may not actually be true or servicing us, and realizing that we can make these choices to let go of these things. They could be things that we learned in school, priorities or belief systems we gained from our parents or our friends. Take a look at that, people, because it can cause a lot of pain when it's not either it's not true at all, or some form of it that you've attached value to is not servicing you.
I see it over and over, Amelia, that when you change your mind, your mindset, what you think, how you think about things, and everything else changes. And
totally.
It is so easy. I can think of so many things that I've picked up and carried around with me that are like curly hair is ugly.
Right.
It's so stupid. Like, well, I have curly hair. So does that mean my hair is ugly? No, you figure out how to love your curly hair. That's just a simple thing. But for years, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like what I saw. Like, what is that?
Right, right. I hear you, girl. I'm all over that because I have body parts that I've spent decades trying to either camouflage or be disgusted by, and I'm like, no more.
Yeah. So before we hit record, I went and I returned some clothes. So then I don't know why. I tried on probably 10 pairs of jeans. And if you're not in a good mindset, do not go
Yes.
pair and try pair.
Amen.
I was like, what is up with these high rise pants? It looks like my legs are, I don't know. High rise is not for me. I don't know how you feel about that. That might be controversial, but high rise is not for me. It looks like I have body parts in between my legs that I don't have. I'm not a man.
I hear you. And I appreciate that so much because I think all of us have, fashion trends that didn't work for us. But again, it's holding on to an ideal that you're like, I should look good in this because some magazine or some social media account says this is the thing to have. So definitely, I think we're trying to lead other people, but we're also learning for ourselves how to employ all these tactics and change our own mindset.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, you can make fitness progress despite the hormones. You just have to realize you can't go back to what you used to do when you were younger because it doesn't work. And I would be curious if you are doing something and it's not working, be curious. Why is it not working? Or reach out and get help because there's people like Amelia and I that would love to help you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we need to move on to question 5, but just a couple more points about can I make significant progress? You can, but don't neglect sleep hygiene and healthy eating. Those are super important and will help you get to your fitness goals either faster or easier. I mean, I think it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think faster and easier, actually. Sleep, you got to figure out sleep because without that, you're not going to see what you want, the results that you're looking for sure. The other thing that's helpful is just moving your exercise earlier in the day. That will match your hormones better. And, maybe you used to be able to work out at 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or do that crazy class that you loved. But now what's going to happen? When are you eating? How are you sleeping? Is it, if it messes up your sleep, it's a no for me. So be curious.
Yeah, I agree with you. So our last question for this week will be, are there specific exercises to target problem areas like belly fat and bat wings? We all know what bat wings are, that lovely little jiggly skin on the back of the arm.
Yeah. It's like menopause. It's like, where did it come from? Like same with the belly fat. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you cannot spot reduce an area. You cannot. What I can tell you is the more muscle you have on your body, the more metabolically healthy you are. And that's a good thing. So, specifically, if you want to do arm exercise, any kind of tricep stuff will make you feel stronger, building muscle, push-ups or bicep curls, anything like that. Lat pull downs, anything or rows, bent over rows, all of those things would target that part of your body. And also it targets your core. So just a word about the core. Your core is everything. It's not just your ab muscles by your belly button. It's not just your six pack. It is everything from your shoulders to your hips and the front and the back and on the side. So it's your whole entire middle, basically. And so sit-ups won't get you there. I don't prescribe sit-ups. I don't do those anymore. They actually would rub my tailbone raw. How do you feel about sit-ups?
Yeah, I can't even tell you the last time I laid on the floor to do any kind of exercise, to be honest with you. But I agree with you about the core. And I'll tell you a personal little anecdote. I've spent the last 6 months more or less working my back chain, meaning, the back side, all my lats, the backs of my shoulders, my hamstrings. And I've had some sort of postural alignment issue probably since I was 12. And, my mom, my husband, anybody with any sort of caring, and part of me would be like, oh, stand up straight, pull your shoulders back. And I tried to do that for so long, Cam. And it wasn't until I really worked this back chain and got my muscles strong enough on all sides that I really can comfortably stand up or sit up straight, pull my shoulder blades down my back, kind of, not tuck my tailbone, but certainly engage my low abs and have my ears really like positioned over my shoulders. So
Yay!
I don't know that I would have understood that. I have gone to a plethora of exercise classes. I've been to physical therapy. Like, I've seen so many professionals, in different capacities, and not that I feel like somebody did me wrong by not pointing this out. It's just kind of an observation. So, the core, front and back, you will feel so much better and stronger and able to carry out your day if that's strong.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the back is ignored because we were told, here's another myth, that sit-ups are the only way to get strong in your core. And it's just not true at all. Yeah. So there's things like bird dog, and there's dead bug, and then there's like rows and lat pull downs and all those things that work the back side of your body. And I'm also a fan of planks. I love all forms of planks and bear crawls and bear holds. And yeah, so there's so many ways to get strong in your core that does not include sit-ups. Don't do them.
Yeah, absolutely. And sit-ups, honestly, Cam, my experience with sit-up, if they're done incorrectly, they can actually cause harm.
Yeah, well, I would get literally a raw spot, a raspberry on my tailbone when we would do them in competitions, for example. And I would be like, what is that? The first time I took a shower and I had a raw spot, and I was like, what is wrong?
Yeah, I bet that hurt.
Yeah, literally my bone was making a mark through my skin. Think about that. Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah, that is. And one of the other things is, the right amount of cardio can be good for belly fat. And it kind of goes back to that whatever percentage includes, caloric deficit. And that I tread very lightly there. But we're not saying that cardio is bad, but we are saying to plug your strength workouts in first.
Yeah. And it has to do with cortisol, because if you are stressed out about life and work and all the things, and you're not eating, so your body's stressed out, and then you go and do a very stressful cardio workout at 6 p.m., how do you expect your body to, one, recover and sleep, and two, grow muscles? It's in a catabolic breaking down state. It's not. Right. Yeah. So yeah, we have to rethink those things. And again, if it's not working for you, what's the harm in trying something new?
Yeah, absolutely. I have super enjoyed these 5 questions, and we've unpacked so many more useful tips and information than we even had notes on. So I'm really excited to learn what our 5 questions are next week. Thanks for listening today. You can find us on Instagram at midlife.mamas.
For all of our other contact info, check out the show description below, and we will talk to you next week.